Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, no matter where you are. A warm welcome from LBMC Technology Solutions for this month's session of GP Office Hours. We will be presenting Unlocking Growth, Why Now is the Time to Make the Switch from GP to Sage Intacct. What we have found, we offer a couple of different cloud solutions, but we have found that for some organizations, Sage Intacct is sometimes the best fit. And today's presentation is meant to kind of show you why we think that is the case for some organizations. And certainly we are here as your technology advisor to help you make the move from legacy software to cloud software. So let me introduce our speaker. Jennifer Patterson has a wealth of experience in accounting, having spent 14 years in the field and 5 years specifically with Sage Intacct. She is a frequent presenter for us. She has presented Sage Intacct webinars as well as Hot Topics, which is something that we offer our Sage Intacct customers. It's a quarterly 2 hour training. The first hour is a deep dive into some aspect of the software. The second hour is covers the highlights of the quarterly releases. And we do offer that every quarter and for 2 CPE credits. So Jennifer's depth of experience in accounting and business processes, coupled with her Bachelor of Science in Accounting from ORU, allows her to understand how technologies affect companies as a whole. As a Sage Intacct consultant, she works with all departments impacted by technology and provides consulting and training on how to use technology to achieve your business objectives. And she does that across multiple verticals, whether that's nonprofit or healthcare or professional services organizations. She does it all. Her certification as a CPA further enhances her ability to provide top-notch support. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Jennifer is also actively involved in her community. She volunteers with local nonprofits and is a previous member of TS One little housekeeping note, following the webinar, I will be sending everyone a copy of the slides as well as a link to the recording. I ask that you give me 48 hours to get that out the door. Usually it's shorter than that, but in the event that something comes up, I give me a little bit of grace there. And with that, Jennifer, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be with everyone today. Um, I have used Sage Intacct as an accountant. I have implemented it. I'm obviously biased towards it, but I have worked with other softwares. I am familiar with other ERPs, so I'm excited to get to share. As an implementer, I've worked with multiple people who have switched from GP to Intacct, and just kind of want to highlight some of the benefits and successes that they've discovered along the way. A little bit formal calling this learning objectives, but we're going to look at about 6 different areas today. We're going to look at how Sage Intacct has what's known as a multi-entity shared environment. This allows you to have multiple tax IDs, locations, funds, sub-funds, lines of businesses, DBAs. If you need to, you need to separate it, but also consolidate it. We've got that functionality. We're going to talk about the dimensional structure and how that differs from GP, so we can streamline your chart of accounts. And we're going to discuss opening and closing periods in Intacct. You're going to hear some similar verbiage between Intacct and GP, but we do mean different things. So I'm going to try and highlight those differences in functionality. And then we're going to see kind of where other clients and customers have benefited from using Sage, all-in-one billing, fully integrated workflows, and then of course in reporting. Really, that's right at the end of the day, that's what most of us are here for, is we gotta get those reports out the door. All right, so when we talk about multi-entity functionality, you're going to think about things like, do I have more than one federal ID number that I have to report on? Do I have multiple full-scale lines of businesses or programs or multiple funds? Or these things that need to be reported separately? You're talking like a balanced balance sheet, its own P&L, but I also have to report on it at a consolidated level. Are you running multiple instances? Are you keeping a second set of books in an Excel? These are things that we don't have to do with Sage Intacct. Sage Intacct has what's known as a top level and an entity level structure, and it creates this hierarchy. So it's going to allow for separate reporting by that federal ID or DBA or fund, but it's in a shared system and a shared chart of accounts. So you can standardize your metrics across all of those entities. And this allows for easier consolidation of reporting. And also, again, right, and it's standardizing that thing. So you don't have to worry about entity one has 2001 as their AP and entity two has 200. And now when I've got to make my reports, I've got to consolidate those into one accounts payable bucket. With Intacct, you just use 2000 or whatever account your heart desires, and then we're going to tag it with that entity. So anything that's entered at the top level, that's your main data house, right? That's your master data. So we're going to put those natural accounts, any of those dimensions, and it's going to be accessible at the entity level. So this allows for easier intercompany. If you're a smaller business and you just want one place to do all of your various lines of business, you can just work at the top level. You're able to enter like one bill for multiple entities at a time. But at the same time, anything that's entered at that entity level is only accessible to that entity. Now it's going to roll up to the top level for consolidated reporting, but you can have those user restrictions, permissions, and privacy. So if you do have two tax IDs and you have two accountants, and one should work in one, and then the other one should work in the other, and never should they ever be in the other person's entity, we can do that in Intacct while still giving the controller, the CFO, the manager ability at the top level to see everything. And I've kind of hinted at this, but Intacct uses a dimension structure. So again, you're going to have that GL natural account, so accounts payable. That's going to be your asset, your liability, your equity, revenue, expense, right? Those things that are going to report on the balance sheet, on your P&L, those things that you kind of need high level groups together. But then you're able to use your dimensions to add context to those transactions. So you can use location or entity. Entity, of course, right? That's your main kind of line of business, your fund or physical, legal entity. And then location is going to be kind of a parent-child relationship to that. I've seen it used as sub-fund, physical location. We see in healthcare a lot. That's actually like, this is the doctor's office. And then this is the other doctor's office. But we have project, department, class, vendor, customer. And these things are all separate. Okay, so they don't concatenate to form the chart of accounts. So you're not going to have these separate dimensions that are then pushed together to create unique chart of account GL structure. And then when you run your chart of accounts, you've got 1,000 items there because, right, it's every iteration of those things put together. They are completely separate. So your GL lives at the top level, your dimensions live at the top level, but transaction by transaction, I'm able to slice and dice, pick and choose how I want to match these dimensions. So there's never going to be a time where I'm going to need two miscellaneous expense natural accounts because I need one to denote this department and this one to denote that project, or this one to denote that revenue stream. We're already handling those with other dimensions, and we're able to just mix and match. And so this allows for easier reporting. When you put in that multi-entity functionality, you're going to find it's easier to track, and it just kind of reduces the data entry load and make things a lot more streamlined. Something else that Intacct offers in the GL is stat accounts. So this is non-financial data. My example in the slides are participants and patients. But what are we needing to track? Do we need to track participants in a program, patient visits, visitors, students? We are able to use these in conjunction with financial accounts to report on things like cost per patient, patient per day, revenue per salesperson, whatever unique metric that you're looking at. So, we would create a stat account for participants. And this allows us to track program participants. This can then be paired with any other of those Intacct dimensions we just mentioned to then track that by department, program, site, physical location, whatever metric you're looking at, we can get it in there. And then so you have one stat account, but we're able to build out multiple real world implications. These pair with account groups. That is your grouping of your financial natural accounts to turn those statistics into financial metrics that, again, we can put on your financial reports. We see patients a lot used as a stat account to be able to track by site visit or maybe physician. You're able, when you're tracking that, to look at year-over-year comparison on visit counts or cost per. Again, we're simplifying reporting because we're maintaining those key metrics inside of Intacct. You could ask a question, and now it's not, okay, let me go over to this spreadsheet and go over to that spreadsheet and let me gather the numbers. We've been putting it at Intacct, and so now we just pull it up and there it is, just like we would pull up a balance sheet, P&L, and we go on with our lives. So it's allowing us to quantify impact or cost, or again, what we're quantifying those things that we kind of know exist and we kind of want to track, but we may or may not be tracking. But we're doing that in our reporting, and we're doing it in real time.
Jennifer, we have a question.
Yes.
And the question is there an integration with EMRs and payroll?
Oh, there is. Yes to both. Now, it's going to depend on your payroll provider, but there are multiple that integrate directly. And then Sage offers what's known as EMR Connect, and that will connect to most EMR systems. We'd have to have a conversation about yours specifically, but yes, there is a solution for that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so let's talk about open and close periods. So this is one of those places where I've noticed in implementation, we're using the same terminology and we're meaning different things. So it kind of, not any kind of implementation roadblock or anything, but it is something that I've noticed once people get this, they're like, oh, I like that. So I wanted to highlight it and bring that out. So in GP, in Sage Intacct, you can open and you can close a period. Now, when you talk about opening a period inside of GP, it is a manual process. You have to go in there, you have to find that fiscal period, you have to mark it as open. You cannot post unless that period is open. Sage Intacct has basically two layers. It's got what's known as reporting periods, and it has accounting periods. Accounting periods and reporting periods are considered open by default. So that means I could go in there today And if I wanted to, I could post to January. Now, we have controls, we have permissions in place to stop somebody from posting 4 or 5 months in the future, but I don't have to call my controller and go, hey, I need to work. Can you open the period? I don't have to wait on the prior period to be closed. I just get to go in and do my job. With closing a period, now for both softwares, this is a manual process. Right? With GP, you got to go in, I don't actually know what it looks like. I haven't worked in GP in about 20 years, but you got to go in and you got to mark it closed, right? And Sage Intacct's the same. You got to go in and you got to mark it closed. With GP, you can have a soft close and a hard close. And then your year end is going to require some extra manual steps. With Sage Intacct, it is a manual go in and mark it closed. I can do this per module. So think of modules as subledgers. So I can go in there by AP. I can go in there by cash management, AR, and I can close those individually and independently of my GL. Now, once I close my GL, everything's closed, but these are closed. Once you close it, there's no posting, unless you go in and you reopen it. And that's going to include those approvals and validations. And then there's no manual steps for year-end or month-end posting. So right now you may be used to, it's the end of the year, and I got to go in there and I got to do that manual balance transfers and resets, and I got to post my closing entries, and I got to do that whole process. I remember doing that process. In Sage Intacct, this is all automated. So you close a period and that stops posting. In terms of period end, so monthly close, year end close, fiscal year close, however you're managing that. Intacct does what's known as a ghost entry. So it's always going to calculate, and it's always going to do that roll up, and it's always going to check your retained earnings or net assets for that period. So you can run your financials in Intacct as of any period and get correct closing data, correct, right? Like correct retained earnings, correct P&L, correct balance sheet without any process on your end. Of course, we also look at kind of set of granularity. Dynamics is that fiscal single period setup. Intacct will let you be as many periods closed or as many periods open as you want. So I could be closed today as of December 31st and have the whole year open. I could be every month I'm closing it. You have that control, because again, right, it's just assuming every calendar period in the future is open. So right, if I went in today and I posted, it would assume I'm posting to 10/21. If I go in today and I want to move that to 11/1, I can. If I want to go back to September and I haven't closed September, I can. It's kind of just looking at what's the calendar date and what's open. And then it's assuming you're going to manage your own close. Of course, security, GP, you have that soft close and hard close. Sage Intacct, once you're closed, you're closed. Now, again, you can reopen. We've got adjusting journal entries. We've got some things that you can manage through permissions. So it's not like you're closed forever and let's hope it's right. But it's once I close AP, somebody with proper permissions has to reopen it for me if they want me to backdate something. So kind of high level key differences, right? We're looking at that granularity, that automation for year-end processes, and then you've got a little bit more security around that. All right, and we're going to go into our poll question so I can take a drink of water.
Wonderful. Also, just a reminder, we had a question, so you may use the chat function if you have a question for Jennifer or about Sage Intacct. And let me pull up our first poll question. Actually, it's our only poll question. So I'd like to set up a time with LBMC Tech to discuss how Sage Intacct could benefit my organization. And the choices are yes, we would love to learn more, or two, not yet. I'm going to end the poll in a couple of beats here, so um, please enter a choice. We appreciate your feedback on this. And the poll is done. Thank you for participating. Jennifer, it's back to you.
All right, awesome. All right, so now we're kind of moving in to some of those things that I've seen our clients actually use and benefit from. Right, all of this is standard functionality. Nothing that I've mentioned so far is you've got to pay extra. Now there are extras. Okay, so the integration might be extra. We did mention that in a question. But right, a lot of what I'm talking about, most of what I'm talking about is core functionality. This is you pay the subscription and you get all of this. You actually get more than what I'm going to be able to cover in an hour. But what I've seen a lot of benefit in is when we talk about AR and we talk about billing. Now, whether this is a functionality of GP or it's just my client specifically, I see a lot of them are using multiple systems to handle their billing, right? So, and this isn't an EM, like, right, this isn't, we're talking like EMR system, and then, I got to get that into Intacct or into GP. This is like, I do all of my billing and invoicing in GP, but I can't do my actual creation of my invoices. So maybe they're entering in GP the customer receivable, and then now they've got to actually print out an invoice with backup to send to that client. There's usually, everyone I've worked with so far has at least two systems, sometimes three, involved in that process. Within Intacct, we're able to do all of that inside of Intacct. So we have accounts receivable. We also have a core module called order entry. And so we are able to use order entry to initiate those invoices. And this is invoices that we send out, right? We're trying to receive money, not AP invoices. We'll talk about those later. But we're able to initiate those inside of Intacct. We're tagging each transaction of those dimensions we talked about, right? We can also add items in there as a dimension we're using. Because I'm using order entry, I'm allowed multiple workflows and multiple invoice templates. So what that means is if you have like two lines of business, or maybe, with healthcare, we see this a lot. I've got two types of invoices, and maybe they share items, but those items are actually mapped to different revenue accounts. I can handle all of that. I can set you up an invoice workflow for your one type of billing, and I can set you up another invoice workflow with your other type of revenue. And they can have personalized templates. So if one needs to be tagged with the location, the physical location, the other one needs to be tagged with the other physical, like all that. I can do all of that. We're able to automate your interest calculations to apply late fees on overdue invoices. We're able to customize this to your company policies. We're able to put in terms. You got net 30, net 10, whatever your terms are, we are able to put that in and apply it at the customer level. Once it's in order entry, and there's a lot in order entry that we're able to do. Like, you can go straight to, I need an invoice. You can also do sales orders and sales quotes. You're able to do a whole workflow. We can do quotes, we can do orders, we can do invoices. But right, we can do revenue recognition and contracts. And again, all of that is being handled in Intacct inside of one module. But once we get to that, I'm actually posting the invoice. I am ready to send it to the customer. That is going to stay in order entry. It's going to have its custom template that you're able to print or email to your customer, client, patient, donor, whatever your specific scenario is. And then we're able, not able, because we don't even have to do anything. What happens is once you post it in order entry, it immediately goes over to AR. And then inside of AR, I can have AR invoices that are separate from my order entry workflows. And then I have these very fancy workflows that we've built for ourselves. But inside of AR, I'm able to record payment. I'm able to do adjustments. I can apply those payments and adjustments to open invoices. I'm able to reconcile by customer. I'm able to see customer balances. I'm able to run my aging, all of that accounting stuff, all of that collection stuff. So that end result, right, is your payment receipt is worked in the same system that generates your invoice and allows for that, high level, holistic view, one system accommodating multiple workflows, multiple entities, locations, funds. And I got it all in one place, which then, right, rolls back up into consolidated reporting. So let's look a little bit more at that kind of fully integrated workflow, high level, big picture. Okay, so Sage Intacct is an integrated multi-ledger system. GP works kind of similar. And so, right, so you see we've got over here to the side is order entry. It's feeding directly into AR. AR is feeding directly into the general ledger. On the other side is purchasing. It's going to flow into AP, AP into the general ledger. All of this is happening simultaneously, automatically in real life or real time. It's all in real life, but it is happening in real time. I don't have to post to the GL. When I post my order entry invoice, it is immediately flowing into AR. AR is immediately flowing into the general ledger. So you are getting those updates as they're happening. There's no going into order entry and saying, hey, I need you to post AR. Okay, AR, I'm ready for you to go to general ledger. No, it's all just flowing together. Of course, then your general ledger flows up to your financial reports. We are able then to manage permissions by each of those little notebooks, right? So I can manage individual permissions for cash management, purchasing, AP, GL, AR, order entry, reporting, any other applications that we have in there. We're able to make very clear workflows. We're able to build those out. And all of that has real audit benefits, right? Auditors like to see that clear-cut workflow. They like to see those permissions. They like to see those audit reports. We've got all of that. All right, so promised we talk a little bit about AP. So Sage Intacct, that accounts payable process, I love it. It starts in AP, right? And it ends in the general ledger. And it is, again, it's happening in real time. So we're able to enter those bills into the AP module. They can then be approved. We've got multiple approvals. We can do vendor approvals. We can do bill approvals. We can do payment approvals. If you decide you want purchasing, purchasing has its own set of approvals. So we are an ERP, right? We're a financial management system. We're not an AP. That's all we do. So sometimes people find that the approvals are not as robust as something like Bill or Stamply or one of those integrated solutions. So if you have very, 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 very complex approvals, we've got solutions for that. But your core functionality is going to be, hey, can I approve this bill? Can I do value approvals, department approvals? Can I approve based off who the vendor is? we got all that covered. Once that bill is in and approved, and you don't have to have approvals, you could just let it post. You're going to be able to work those bills. So you can verify the account coding, you can verify that, yep, this is a real bill. And then when you're ready, you can go into payment processing. A note here for both AP and AR is that Sage Intacct will allow for cash and accrual simultaneously. So we can set you up for cash accounting and accrual accounting in the same environment. So you'd be able, right, if it's accrual accounting, as soon as I have that bill entered and approved, it's gone to the GL. We're there, we're good. If you have cash accounting, that AP bill's there and it's ready to be paid, right? But it's not going to show up because cash hasn't left the bank. So then when you're in there, you're able to pay those bills, right? You can use ACH, check, a wire, and then they're able to be posted. Again, they're posted to the general ledger. For ACH and check, it's not immediate. It's going to make you confirm that the check was printed or the ACH was delivered to the bank. But things like credit cards, cash, wires, the moment you hit post, it's going to post it to cash for you. And then again, you know, I'm keep harking on this, but it's posting that general ledger in real time. So the moment you enter the bill, it's in the general ledger. We are able to do reclasses. You don't have to do reclasses in the general ledger. You do those in, you can do those in AP, and we're able to then see those reflected in the general ledger. You're also able to do terms in AP. You can do vendor advances, adjustments. All of that can be handled at the subledger and then flow back up to the general ledger. If you have multiple entities, obviously we're able to manage and post those either at the entity level or the top level. And so it's going to ensure that proper reporting, currency tracking, all of those various things we're going to have to take those into consideration, right? Do you have multi-currency? Is this a multi-entity or is this single entity? Where do we post this? Intacct does automate your inter-entity transaction. So we would have to map that. But then, right, if I have a bill for entity A and I pay it with entity B, Intacct's going to handle in the background automated your due to, due from. So there is, you know, there's going to be some setup there. There's some design. That would be a conversation with us to make sure we've got user permissions set up. Everything's configured the way you want it configured, and we've enabled all the features that you want. But it's pretty robust. I'm a fan. All right. So then we, you know, all of this really leads to reporting. Now I've got examples of nonprofits. We have more than just nonprofit. We have standard out of the box. Sage comes with what's known as a quick start template. And this comes with about 40 reports. So this is things like your balance sheet. Obviously, if you're a nonprofit, statement of activity, statement financial position. If you're not non-for-profit, you're going to get your P&L, your budget versus actuals, top 10 vendors, cash balances. I don't have them all memorized, but there's about 40 of them. And so these are considered our standard financial reports or out of the box. Sometimes you'll hear us refer to them as quick start reports. And so these come loaded and ready for you. Like you turn on Intacct and you give us a general ledger chart of accounts with quick start categories, and these reports are there. No setup, nothing you have to do. We're able to balance out and go on. And you can customize it later, right? But out of the box, you're going to have those standard reports. Now, Intacct also offers standard dashboards. And so those dashboards include reports, graphs, like circle graphs and pie charts and things like that. And they are links inside of Intacct, performance cards for easy high-level overview. So like you can just log in and in one place you can see, are we up? Are we down? How's budget? All of this is out of the box. The idea is to give you a smooth transition at go live. From day one, you can run reports, and you're not scrambling for those base reporting needs. But like everything, almost everything inside of Intacct, but specifically like our financial reports and dashboards, they can be customized. Intacct also comes with what's known as standard reports. So inside of each of those modules that I mentioned, you would see like the GLC easiest one. You're going to have a general ledger report. You're going to have a trial balance report. You're going to have a journals report. You're going to have AP aging, AR aging, check register, not cash register, deposit register, receipt register. All those things are standard. And then on top of that, you also get access to a custom report writer. It comes with a wizard, and you're able to then build. There's some limitations there, but you are able to build fully custom, like, hey, I need to look at purchasing and I need these specific metrics and I need you to just give me a report that has that. So like Positive Pay is a custom report, right? Because it's going to look at your AP payments and it's going to look at your checks and it's going to give it to you in a specific format that your bank requires. So we're able to build that with custom reports.
Jennifer,
I'm not going to go. Yeah.
we have a question.
Perfect.
And the question is, can the system build a flat file to load to a bank to cut checks?
Maybe. So I would have to know more about your bank and have to know more about what the bank requires. Right, we're able to do Positive Pay. Intacct has bank file reports. It has ACH reports. We have for other clients built a flat file. I'm going to tell you if the bank you're asking about is Truist. Not as friendly. So we have succeeded and we have failed. We'd have to look at what your requirements are to tell you yes or no specifically. Okay. I'm not going to go too deep into Quick Start. I could talk about financial reports and custom reports like for an hour or more by itself. So let's jump into a demo, and then we'll circle back around for more Q&A. All right, so when you first log in, Intacct is a cloud-based web browser solution. Excuse me, this is a demo environment. So it's gonna, by default, look like this. You can change what page you come in on. This is just the default, and most people don't change it. You're gonna see here this release. That is something to note that you get with cloud-based software that is a little bit easier sometimes than when you have on-prem. Intacct does a release quarterly. So every 3 months, we get enhancements, bug fixes, new offerings. So, I mean, we're not going to get a whole brand new module usually, but you might find that thing that you've been wanting for 6 months is suddenly available, because they do listen to the ideas of the users and the user experience, and they value that and they take from that, and then we'll see that you might submit an idea and it might be a year before you see it come to fruition, but they do a lot of stuff based off of what they call the community is asking for. So here you're going to see this is that top level versus entity. You always come in at the top level unless you change your permissions. But then it is as simple as I'm going to click here, and then I'm at the entity level. So when I'm at the entity level, I go to my general ledger and hope I found one. Okay. So here are my journal entries. Now the journal entries I'm looking at are only the journal entries that impact this entity. I can't see anything from entity 200 or 300, right? I am limited in scope. This is intentional, right? Maybe I don't work in those other entities and I don't need to see their stuff. Or maybe I am a clerk or whatever various scenario. You're probably thinking of about 6 and I can only come up with 1. If I'm at the top level, however, and I go to my general ledger and I look at my journal entries, and you can see here too, right? There's multiple journals. These journals are kind of like file folders that sit in my general ledger to collect my data. So I have, an AP journal, I have an accounts receivable journal. These are hard coded to my subledgers, those modules, to post. Most people are doing manual journal entries in the general journal or potentially in the payroll journal. Now, when I'm here, I can see everything. So right here, I'm only seeing 1094, 1093. These are for that entity. But at top level, I can also see 1096, 1095. I'm getting used to this new view. I can see everything, right? Because it's a top level consolidated view. So I'm not necessarily limited by an entity or department. We have user restrictions if that's something that you need. Let's see. So we talked about so here's your various modules and how they also, right? So here's order entry. You can see I have sales orders. I have invoices. These invoices are what post to AR, that post to the general ledger. We call these transaction definitions. You can, by transaction definition, dictate, does it post to the general ledger? Does it post to AR? Is it a non-posting transaction definition? We control all of that. And then, of course, you can set up your returns. You've got the customers here. And then if I look at, make sure I'm at the top level. So here's the sales invoice, SI0019. So then if I go over to AR and I look at invoices, there's that same invoice. I am able to then, and you can have a different invoice template between order entry and AR. So we've got lots of flexibility here. I can email my transactions and order entry. I can print or email those invoices and AR. But then when it's here, right, AR is where the payment receipt happens. I'm able to then receive it. If I look at this one, and I can, on every transaction, I can go to posting details. And now I can see that this was posted to my accrual books. It went to the ARJ. It is journal number 620, posting date. This is my general ledger posting. I can also go to the general ledger. Now I can manually go over here. I can manually find that. Okay, good, it's the top one. And I can click in here and I'm going to see that exact. So here's the journal entry. And here's that posting detail. Now, you can manually do that. I can also just click on it and it's going to bring that up, right? So there's all of this drill down functionality. So if let's take it from another area. Let's say I'm in, and I'm going to do top level for the rest of this. Let's say I'm in my general ledger report and I'm trying to figure out something that happened with accounts payable. I'm the GL accountant, so I don't really mess with AP, but I got to figure out what's going on. So I run my report and I realize, hey, there's something going on with this $50. I'm able, if I have the right permissions, I'm able to just click through and find it. Now that didn't do what I expected because I expected to bring it up for me, but there's all of this functionality where I'm able to just kind of click through and find, it wasn't that one. So here's there's that $50. And again, it ties back to my journal entry. So there's a lot of drill down functionality. Try to keep an eye on the time here. So this is your kind of default view of bills in here. Again, right, you can see there's your account. AP and AR are account driven. So if you enter directly into AP, enter directly into AR, it's going to expect you to give it that natural account. And then any of your other dimensions. If you need to use items, that would be order entry or purchasing. And this one probably came over from purchasing. Okay. Okay, sorry, my brain just went, what? I did want to show you the dashboard because I like it. I think the dashboards are great. Okay, it wants a specific location. So this specific demo is multi-currency, which is why it's requiring me to filter down. But you can see here, these are what we call those performance cards. And so we can use it to look at those stat accounts we mentioned. We can look at specific financial metrics. You're able to see, right, here's revenue year to date, gross profit year to date, expenses year to date. It can give you actual versus budget. We've got contracts and projects in this demo environment. So I'm able to get a high level review of like, here's my customer, here's that project begin date, the deposit, hours worked, margin. Here's my actual versus budget. There's a lot on this one. And then here's also my applications. So this, if I go here, it's going to take me to my company. Your company is where those dimensions live, right? So your entities are defined in your company module. And then your various dimensions are also defined in here. So like you would see, this is where we're entering those departments. And again, if I enter these here at the top level, then I can access them at any of my entities. Goodness gracious. All right, sweetheart. All right, let me show you a report as well. Now, the tricky part with a demo environment is remembering the right date to use. All right, so like here, right, and so this is, I kind of showed you that highlight of the nonprofit reports. This is using a services quick start template. So this is a different set of reports, right? You don't see any of the statement of financial position, statement of activities. You're seeing balance sheet, cash balance, expense summaries, profit and loss, things like that. So let's look at this budget versus actual. I'm gonna try let's try 2019. Let's see what happens. Nothing happens. All right, what are you doing to me? Okay, well, of course, right? you practice it and it works perfect. And then when you go to show it to somebody, all right, well, that's okay. So let's go back to the dashboard real quick. I actually want to show you, these are specific to this demo environment. So let me show you one that everybody gets. It's actually my favorite. Oh, hold on. I hit the wrong button. So this is a controller dashboard. This comes standard in all of our Intacct environments. And you can see out of the box, right? No customization. This is what you get just by using a quick start template and a quick start category. I get this dashboard. I get these reports. So again, here's your performance cards. This is what your profit and loss would look like. So there's, it's a demo environment. So you get revenue, you don't have any expenses. Isn't that great? But really, even though these are smaller, this is exactly how those reports would look. And so I've found that probably 90% of our clients are able to use these, like I said, from day one. They're able to use it to verify history coming over. They're able to print it out, export it, whatever your process is, and immediately just pass it out. Like, here you go, boss. Here you go, board, committee. And so there isn't usually a ton of customization work up front. And then as you get more familiar with Intacct, or you maybe get more requirements that you have to fill, then we can start working on that. When we implement standard is about 4 hours of report training. So if you're looking at this and you're like, I like that, I want to learn more about that, we do cover that. That training is included in our implementations. All right, we got about 8 minutes left, and I did want to see if there were any questions.
Well, we'll give the audience a couple of seconds here if they do have questions to enter those into the chat. I just wanted to mention a couple of things about Sage Intacct, and it revolves around its depth of accounting, its sound technology, and its ease of use. And with the accounting, one of the things that Sage Intacct has that no one else has is that it's the first and only cloud financial management solution to be the preferred solution by the AICPA. And I know we have a lot of accountants in our audience today and who are very aware of the role that the American Institute of CPAs plays with regard to the rules of accounting and governance. The second thing is that Sage Intacct always performs well when it comes to technology. It is always in what is known as the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is sort of a combination of innovation, reliability, popularity as a solution, and just a great value given the price point of where Sage Intacct resides. But probably the most important, or what I would consider the most impressive aspect of Sage Intacct, is that for 7 or 8 years in a row now, it has been #1 in customer satisfaction. And that has come from a source called G2, which is an independent third party where software end users can go to review the solutions that they use every day. And I believe that the voice of the customer says it best. And by leaps and bounds, Sage Intacct has been #1 in customer satisfaction. So just wanted to share those with you. There aren't any questions right now, Jennifer, so we could move to the last slide that we have. For those of you who are currently using Dynamics GP, our monthly GP office hours next month in November is, I can't believe it's already November, is going to be on GP Developer Tools, GP Power Tools. And that will show you how you can extend the functionality So please, the link to the registration will be in our slides. But then also, with November right around the corner, it means that year end is right around the corner. And we have two training sessions that are on demand. One is for year end processes with regard to GP payroll, and the other is for year end processes for all the other GP modules. So those links will be available in the slides as well. And then finally, all of our GP office hour sessions are in a library on YouTube, and it's a complete playlist. In a day or two, this session will be up on YouTube, as well as all of the sessions that have come before this. So with that, Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today in showing us how Sage Intacct has worked for LBMC Tech clients who have made the move from GP to Sage Intacct. We really appreciate your time. And to all of you who have joined us today, thank you once again for being a part of our GP office hour sessions. So thanks, everyone.